Holster. I'm the chairperson of the Zoning Commission for Loudon Township. Thank you all for coming out tonight. This meeting is a required meeting that we have to have, and I'll explain a little bit more about that in a moment. I want to start off with introductions of the people up front here, so I'm going to pass this microphone down.
John Stahl, I've been a resident for 42 years, and I'm pleased to be part of this.
Steve William, and I've been a resident for practically all of my 72 years, only when I was away at college for a few years.
I'm Laura Wolf, and I've lived in Seneca County most of my life. I've been a homeowner since '97 in Loudon Township.
You need to talk up.
Yeah.
We'll turn it up.
Better?
Oh, good.
I'm Ashley Stahl. I was born in Loudon Township, moved away for a little bit, and I've lived here for the last 10 years.
I'm Ellie Anderson from the Seneca County Prosecutor's Office. I'm an assistant prosecutor.
Jack Van Clay at Van Clay Law. I'm outside counsel for Loudon Township.
Also want to introduce the three trustees, township trustees back here, Roger Holman, Jason Painter, and Kevin Reinhardt, the fiscal officer, Vicki Koppas, and also I saw Bill Franker, the county commissioner, is back here. So what we're going to do tonight, I'm going to give a short recap of the process, where we're at, where we're going with this process, and what the next steps are going to be, and also then open up for questions, so people can ask questions. The Zoning Commission was formed by the Township Trustees a year ago. We've been working at this since May of 2023. One of the first things we did was to establish a purpose for what we're trying to do. And the purpose we came up with is that we want to protect and preserve the rural and agricultural landscape and lifestyle of the township. Plain and simple, that's what we come up with as the purpose of what we're trying to do. Our commission, our committee, we also have two alternates. I'm sorry, I forgot to Aaron Stahl back here with the child on his shoulders. He's an alternate. We have one other alternate, Christy Casson, who couldn't be here tonight. When the commission was charged with writing proposed comprehensive zoning code, our job is to prepare and deliver to the trustees a zoning code, proposed zoning code. We do not have the authority to put it on the ballot. The trustees have the responsibility to put it on the ballot. Our job is to deliver to them a proposed code with the maps that they can decide what they want to do with it. So I think that needs to be understood. And what I mean by a comprehensive plan or a code, a comprehensive plan that covers everything from agriculture, residential, recreational, commercial, industrial. It's comprehensive, it's for the whole township. It's not for any one particular part of the township. We cannot do spot zoning. It has to be comprehensive for the whole township. So on April 22nd, we had a public meeting in this room that a lot of you were at. As a result of that meeting, that was a required meeting. As a result of that meeting, we have made some changes to the code. A week after that meeting, on April 29th, our committee met. We had about a dozen residents come to that meeting, and we went through their list of suggestions and changes that they wanted to see in the code. We made most of those changes. Can't say we made every change, but we made most of those changes. There were 15 items that were deleted from the code. 15 items that we just said, based on their recommendations, their suggestions. There were 14 setbacks that were changed to the minimum setback. There was a number of items where the wording was clarified it seemed vague, the wording was, we changed those things. So we responded to the people from the last meeting and then our committee meeting. As a result of that, because we made changes, that required this meeting. Okay? So if we make changes, we have to have another public meeting, which is this meeting. That's the purpose of this meeting. So the code that went out with the revised maps, that was publicized, and that is the purpose of tonight's meeting.
Yeah, that'd have been nice.
Nobody knew about it. Even people that dumped the trash here never even knew anything about it. From a younger generation, a little bit older than me, to an older generation, I had to tell them about it.
This ain't right. We never got to hear the first, that there was any meetings. And I do use out here. How,
Well,
it,
who wanted to go to? Can we, Vicki, can you say?
Advertiser, the review time on our website was in the Basque Post Office, the Fostoria, the library, and posted out by the trash.
I also know this, I know this meeting also got sent out through the emergency, the countywide emergency
I never got it.
list, whatever that is.
I didn't get
You
it.
didn't send
Well,
anything to us, huh?
I don't get it either, but I was told it went out to that group.
Well, I would hate,
Okay. Well,
no.
I think the requirement is, all we have to do for the requirement is to put it in the local newspaper. Is that correct, Ally?
So,
As far as
so
I understand, for this
the
type
dump
of.
only had to put their shovel in the hole to start a dump too. We didn't have no control over that, so we're gonna have no control over this too.
You do have control over this.
I didn't, this is the first time I heard of it.
Your control is on November 5th at the election.
You betcha.
That's
What,
where,
what are you guys gonna do about that? No. You're just gonna let that keep going and going? I know this ain't the meeting for it, but
no, we want to hear your questions. We want to hear your questions.
I'll let you
And-
go ahead. I
okay.
interrupted you.
Okay, we will answer that the best we can. We want to hear from folks. So this meeting is a required meeting based on the changes that were made in the code. The next two steps, on June the 5th, a week from tomorrow, the Seneca County, or Seneca Regional Planning Commission is going to meet, and they're going to vote on this code, whether they accept it or not. So everything we do, as far as the proposed code goes, has to be approved by Seneca Regional Planning. And that's going to happen a week from tomorrow at 5 o'clock. Then, if they approve it, then our township trustees are going to hold another meeting like this one, about 30 days after that. We haven't set the date yet for that, have we? Guys? So approximately the first part of July, approximately. And so the trustees will have another meeting like this one for the same purpose, for people to get feedback for. After that meeting, the trustees will decide whether they want to put it on the ballot or not. It's their choice. August 5th is the deadline for filing to put it on the ballot, to be on the November 5th election. So those are the steps going forward here. A couple important things to remember here is that if this code gets approved by the voters, there are provisions in the code for amendments and variances. So if this gets adopted and approved by the voters, it is not set like that forever and ever. There are provisions in there to make amendments. And there's also variances that can be made. So it's not going to be set, like I said, it's not going to be set forever once if it gets approved in November.
Yeah.
There are provisions for those things. Okay. Does anybody have anything else to add from what, before I turn it over for questions?
Oh, come on, speak up.
Okay. Who has questions?
I was, maybe, I wasn't, hold on yet.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else have a question?
I'll give you a question.
Go ahead.
What, you know, you put Foster in paper, but you know, not everybody gets the paper.
That's right. I don't get paid.
I know, why waste our time? So, this is the first time I've ever heard of any of the meetings out here on this. And I live in Loudon Township, of course, I'm here. So,
We found out about it on Facebook.
Yeah.
I'm not happy that was poor putting that out there, that, you know, cause what you guys have already talked about, I haven't a clue.
Okay.
I mean, and I'm sure there's other people that this is their first time here, they didn't hear about it neither. So, what, you know, you guys pass out what your amendments are going to be, what any of these rules. What in the world do we need to be zoned for anyways? We haven't for how many years? Has Loudon Township been here and never zoned? Do you guys, somebody need more money or what?
No, it's the purpose that I said when I first started, to preserve and protect the rural agricultural.
Shut that dump down then. Maybe we can have some water. Where I live, my well isn't worth drinking out of. Let alone trying, I have to sit and watch my wife bathe in that filthy water. The city water runs down Township Road 21 and they won't cross the streets. Only way I can get city water is to pay for the whole street and hope somebody else will kick in some money to do it. Other than that, we have to deal with that well. And you guys, Seneca County sends these people out to test my water. Well, they send it back and you can't read it. You can't read it. The stuff is, I mean, I've taken it to even the board up in Fostoria, they can't read it. They have no clue what that means. So what are we really drinking? What are they really testing for?
Can I throw something in, Lou? I spent 30 years in water treatment. If you guys got questions on that kind of stuff, bring them around this way. I'm just saying,
This is,
I can translate it.
we're friends.
I'll translate it for you.
Yeah, maybe I want to know what you're
But
going
we
to
don't know
find.
what they're supposed to be testing for, that's the problem.
Is that the health department that does that?
What's
The
that?
health department?
Who do you
Yeah.
think I've been dealing with?
As I'm asking, is it the
Yeah,
health
yeah,
department?
yeah.
That's what I'm-
Seneca County Health.
Yeah.
So ask the health department to pay for the higher water quality testing. Landfill gives them money,
Oh,
tell the
okay.
health department you want a better water quality
Well, they
test.
want more money, the health department.
No, the landfill gives them money for water quality testing.
Okay.
Tell them you want the higher water quality testing and go that route. Start there and then go from there. Because, let's be honest, landfill ain't going anywhere. But if Seneca County actually takes care of our water and actually tests for what people want, because if they're giving money to do it, it can't be just the basic package. We're asking for more water quality testing. That's it. They get money from the landfill, let them pay for it. Just like,
Well, if you want, yeah, if I could get water, why don't they just run the water down the streets there? There's like 5 streets where all outside of the city limits. I know of one that got an easement through somebody's yard, which I don't understand how he did that, and he got city water, but that was before the zoning people in Fostoria caught up with them, and now they're not gonna let us run a area, run up through there.
That's something that they may be able to negotiate. It would be up to the township to negotiate with the city. You know, that's something you might want to just put a note for, put on the table. If there are water quality problems, and like I say, it depends on what your water quality problem is. Is it
Well, my
sulfur?
dogs won't drink it, it smells that stuff and they walk away from it.
Well, yeah,
Yeah, it smells like
check it for
chemicals.
sulfur, iron, the usuals, and
All right, thank you. Anything else?
I'll leave it alone for a
Yes.
while. I can't do that.
What is the
we were supposed to review it before this meeting, we was already supposed to
Well,
have
better,
it.
we don't have copies to hand out, it was publicized.
Well, that was my question, where is it published?
Right.
Is it something that we can access through the internet, through the township, or?
Okay, Vic, you wanna,
It's on the Loudon Township website. If you just go to loudontownship.com, it's under and there's a zoning tab.
Yeah.
So what-
there was also a, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So one of the things that's very frustrating from, I think, community is, we, so many times we feel like things are being hidden from us. The Loudon, or the school put a thing on the ballot for a levy, never publicized it, never did anything, hoping people would just vote for it. And we almost, it almost feels like that's what this is going on, they're trying not, I mean, you get a lot of money from that landfill. Why didn't we use some of that money and just send it out to everybody in the community? Why didn't we do that? To me, that would be the best way to do it, to make sure it gets out to everybody so we can all read it. Because I didn't hear about the first meeting, my wife happened to hear about the second meeting. I'm here just to find out what's going on, but if I have not reviewed it beforehand, then it's really no use to me being here.
Well, there's gonna be one more meeting. There's gonna be one more meeting that the trustees, we're gonna host here, very similar to this, I guess. And so, and that date hasn't been set yet, sometime around the first part of July. So, you got a month to look it up. We left a hard copy at the Fostoria Library and the Bascom Post Office. I don't know if they're still there. We left a hard copies at those places. So,
It's on the regional planning website too.
regional planning's website, yeah.
But I'm saying again, is there the ability, like I said, my wife used to be a township, Fitzroy. There's a lot of money there, and it has to, at times, be figured out how to use it. Can't they use some of that money? Is it possible to use some of that money? And I ask you that, to use towards this.
Well, I can say, township zoning is regulated under the revised code. It's Ohio statutory procedure under chapter 519. And it's a streamlined guideline of what the township has to follow when they're enacting a township zoning resolution. So when they're going through this process, all the notification requirements, all the publications, they're following that. So that's they're just following that guidepost. You can always probably do more, but you don't have to, and if you do, it's gonna cost the township more money. It's generally, you follow those rules, and they're outlined all in ORC 590.
I understand it's gonna cost the township more money, I realize that. But yes, like you said, they're doing what we have to do.
Yes.
But we should be doing what we should be doing to make sure everybody's communicated to it. Yeah, make sure everybody's well educated so we all can make a decision. If we all agree that, hey, that is the best thing to do, then, that's good. But if everybody doesn't, then we've made a good judgment.
Okay, good
That's
point.
just my opinion. Once again, I don't have it in front of me, so I have to read it. So.
Thank you, thank you.
So that's why.
Yeah, Fred?
The thing that I wanted to let everybody know that when you said that you can change these zoning rules, you can get them changed with amendments, but it costs you. You're gonna have to pay money to get them put out there. Like some of it, it's $250, and you can, if they turn it down, if you don't change a word in it, you have to wait a whole year before you can turn it back in again. But if you change something in it, you can turn it back in again.
No,
But there is,
that's not right. It's not, I'm reading that right here. 702.03, an application for conditional zoning certification which has been denied wholly or in part by the zoning commission shall not be resubmitted until an expiration of 1 year or more from the date of such denial. So it's at least a year.
We discussed this after our last meeting to where that reduces the constant coming back for the same problem. So, I think we had this particular example of a foundation. Say your builder puts in a foundation wrong, that's not your fault, but it doesn't fit in with the code. We get that. You submit your plans, you prove that it was changed within that year. Even if it's a week later, it can be in line with the code. You don't have to wait that year if the change is made.
But you gotta pay money to resubmit it. correct? So it's gonna cost you money no matter what, to bring anything to get changed or resubmitted, reapplied, whatever.
What was wrong with our township to begin with?
Well,
I'm not familiar with the fees.
I know,
Trustees
the fees were out of our
The trustees would be
area.
able to
and that
answer
kind of-
But yes or no, you're gotta pay money no matter what to get anything done. Correct?
I don't think so.
That's what they're asking. So if he comes in and submits an application for a change that he has to wait a year, he still has to pay money for you guys to get something changed.
I know there were fees for any permits, any kind of variances, anything different that you didn't wanna do, there were fees associated. I don't know if they've been set or not, but they are in there.
I remember reading about fees as well, and it just indicated that they weren't actually set within the code, they were going to be determined at a later date.
Yeah, I don't remember anything specific off the top of my head, but I know that there were fees associated.
there's other things going on here too. You know, I think maybe what you might want to do is hone in directly on what you're trying to accomplish, which, you know, you kind of laid them out real quick, it's, you know, getting into what the land is going to be used for. You know, it sounds to me like that's pretty much your primary goal. And then the thing is it sounds to me, from what I'm hearing around me, is all of a sudden the code is complicated with all this minutia. We're talking a foundation permit, we're talking this, we're talking, you know, all this minutia, and you're not really focusing on what you're trying to accomplish. You know, and by taking the code directly out of the state book and then, you know, what they more or less call it codifying it or something like that, you take the state code, you rewrite it to your own specifications, that sort of stuff. I was a police chief for 10 years, almost 10 years, so, you know, I've had my hands on some of this stuff. But I think what you need to do is kind of back up to where, you know, you focus on that and then keep, you know, and then keep the minutia out of it. I think that's what a lot of the people are worried about, is you're going to be cooking, you know, maybe minimum setbacks like that house we tore down was only like 8 feet from the road. You know, dumb things like that, you know, I mean, it was built right on the edge of the easement. You know, yeah, you know, things like that, but is try to pull back from some of the, you know, the stuff that drives people nuts. You know, like the foundation, well, he's gotta get a different permit, you know. If that's covered under a state code or covered under some kind of county code, let the county deal with it. You know, stay away from it. Because all it's gonna end up doing is costing you money in the end and get people mad.
All right.
You know where I'm at.
All right, thanks for your comment. Any other questions anybody has?
So I found the dollar amount for zoning application amendments. What you guys originally posted is $250 for residential. Any amendments or variance applications. If you're commercial, it's $500 plus posting fees for both. So right there, and you guys can answer that you get charged no matter what.
I'll just say, those zoning fees were set by the trustees.
I understand that,
And-
but that's what
and
we're
the-
trying to convey, that everybody said, you're gonna get charged. On top of all the other inspection fees and you building a house and everything else, you know, per square footage, $20 here, $250, $250. You know, if you have changes and you building a house and you say you wanna build it bigger, you could be upwards of $500 to $1,000 extra for what? So you come out and say, oh yeah, okay, here you go. That ain't
Okay.
right.
Anything else? Anything else? Yeah.
I have been too busy lately to really focus on this a ton. Everybody keeps bringing up permits. Every time I hear permit, they only just call it what it is. A permit is a permission slip, an adult permission slip. I'm not sure if it ever switched around to where this is, if this is either complaint-based, where you have a transparent process of who is complaining. Anonymity is the opposite of transparency. If if it is not complaint-based, if it's not based on a complaint process, where there's an actual process where you have to fill out a form, this is the complaint, this is what my complaint is, then you are opening up a power vacuum. That's all that this will do. It'll open up a power vacuum that right now, I know several of the people up here, I think the thought process and the goals, I'm not saying it's bad, but if there's good people now, why are we're in the belief that there will always, that the elected positions, that appointed positions always stay with good people? That's not always the case. It can switch. We keep talking, we want local control. There's those of us who don't want to be controlled. I don't want to have to ask permission to build on my own property. Karl Marx had an amazing quote where he described what communism is. He can describe communism in one sentence: eliminate all private property. This started zoning regulations. The landfill is here because of zoning regulations. In New York, in New Jersey, they have heavy zoning regulations that they say, we're not going to accept this. So then it gets pushed on a smaller community like us because of zoning regulations. So I don't know if anything changed to where it was talked about to make this a transparent, complaint-based process, because if it is permission-based, where I have to ask permission to do things on my own property, it's going to be a no from me. So I don't know if anyone can answer if that was ever, I know I brought the complaint form at one point. There is a complaint form. I've never seen a single municipality put it in, because if they put that in, it would make it a transparent process. I've never found government to be the solutions for problems that government caused in the first place. So that's my piece on this.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks for your comment. Anything else? Yeah.
I've been to a lot of these meetings, and kind of questioning the major reasons I'm gathering is the landfill, solar, and wind. I've heard we're gonna get drained of all our township money, the landfill, by the lawyer from the landfill. I don't know how much money we have in the coffers. I'd like to know that at some point in time in the township, how we're gonna cover all this. What we're gonna do about the wind and the solar, I believe one of the township trustees told us there's loopholes, so they're probably still gonna happen. So what's the purpose of this actual zoning? Is it to punish all of us? Because I think that's all the little rules in here for us, and we're really after the big three corporations that we're trying to stop.
Jack, can you address that, please?
Well,
If there's loopholes, I mean, you're going through Watson Township, I was told they had loopholes in there, that's why they're getting their solar fields in there.
well, you want to write a code that doesn't have loopholes in it, that defeat the purpose of the code, obviously. And I think this code does that.
I think there's people like you that probably can still figure out how to get around it.
Well, I accept that compliment.
That's the lawyers, there's hoes and rays around everything, I'm telling you.
Yeah. Well, during the last meeting, I commented about the fact that industrialization is coming here. It's inevitable. And you have a fork in the road right now. You can either decide to sit back and take whatever they decide to give you, that is the industry people, or you can take proactive action to make sure that when they do come, they're not going to harm your way of life in a way that you would never recognize it before. I represent a lot of rural areas that have now been infected and inflicted with solar facilities, and some with wind facilities as well. And one of the prominent feelings that those folks have now that those facilities have arrived is they wish they would have thought ahead. Because once it happens to you, it's too late. And once a solar facility announces it's coming, it's going to be too late to pass a zoning code to control what that solar facility is doing. And there are communities all over Ohio and the rest of the United States discovering that much to their dismay. So you really got to think ahead of time as to what you need to do to protect yourself. Because otherwise, you're gonna have this nice house in the country, and instead of having corn and soybean fields surrounding it on 4 sides, you're gonna have solar panels on 4 sides. And I have clients in that position now, because their communities didn't plan ahead. So you wanna make sure that you do some planning, even, and I understand your perspective, because I grew up on a farm as well. And, you know, I can tell you that, in the area that I grew up, when we were out in the boonies, we thought that development would never come to us. And I can tell you that today, going back to my homestead, which is still in a farm, but everywhere around, solar panels, thousands of acres of solar panels. So that's what we're trying to prevent for you here.
I understand that,
Yeah.
but money talks, and we're gonna be doing the walking, and I've already had 2 twin 42-inch pipelines running through my farm. I didn't want that either, but money talked, they had more money than I had, I couldn't fight it.
Yeah.
They're gonna come no matter what, we're not gonna stop it.
Well-
This is a state thing and a federal thing, a little township isn't gonna stop anything.
Well, there are townships that have stopped it. That by putting
It's already
in
started
zoning.
here.
But they're already
There are
established,
townships that have stopped
is what he's saying.
solar projects.
They're already here, landfill's already here, and I'm probably the closest resident to the landfill, probably living in
Well,
this meeting right
if
now.
that's the case, then you should be all for this, because one of the
It's
objectives.
not gonna stop them. It's been
Well,
that. We were there before the landfill, it was our forefathers that stopped it, or started this.
Well, you know, part of the idea here is to provide you with control over how your township is developed. And one of those things is to put in some zoning control to stop the big blob
I
that
don't
they
believe
call
we're
the
gonna stop the
landfill.
expansion gonna happen later this year before voting.
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna happen. This isn't, an expansion will happen before the vote.
Yeah, well, I don't think we just give up.
That makes you more money.
You know, I sat in a deposition today, with, 6 wind waste lawyers. That's how many lawyers are in the inside, in just that one case.
And that just shows how much money that they have to do to deplete the township at.
Well, it's not,
They
it's
made
not,
they
it's
made that
not
statement
wind
at the
waste.
last meeting that they would deplete us and take us to all kinds of litigation.
Yeah.
I still haven't heard the answer of how much money we have to even start this,
And who's gonna foot that bill?
and where we're gonna keep the money to fund this.
You're their legal counsel.
That's important to know for the whole, all the residents in this township to know where we're gonna cover all this.
Well, I can tell you that, I am providing very affordable representation. You know,
Well, you get paid,
I was-
I don't get paid.
I was one person at that deposition today. One person, okay? When I go to depositions in the cases that I handle, I staff it with me. I don't staff it with 6 lawyers. I exercise a very tight control over the budget as much as possible. So that's my pledge to you. You know, I'm doing the best that I can to defend you and to take care of your interests. And we'll continue to do that as long as I'm hired to do that. But, you know, you are correct. The amount of money on the other side is humongous.
There's more than the township has, I guarantee you that.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And they've already stated, it. The arrogant lawyer back there the last meeting said he depleted.
Yep, of course. But I guess the question to you is, do you just roll over? Or you take your best?
I had to the last, when the pipeline came through, I had to roll over. We had big lawyers.
Yeah, well, maybe we don't have to roll over.
The pipeline had more money.
Let's not roll
I'm
over.
only a
this-
small farmer.
Yeah, let's not roll over this time.
Yeah. Right. Any other farmer agree with that?
Any other questions on this,
Kind of comes back to what I was saying about getting rid of the minutia that go to the main, your main.
I'm sorry, could
focus.
you speak up, please?
Oh, getting rid of the minutia that's in there.
Yeah.
You know, the stuff that makes people mad, that's going to, you know, immediately tell them, you know, they're just gonna come in and just no vote it, you know, just throw a no at it, you know, without even thinking, is the stuff that impacts like the gentleman was saying back there, if I wanna build something on my property, you know, I'm going to do it, you know, and get rid of the stuff that impacts the little guys out here. Focus on the main thing, which is the land. What are we going to use this land for? How are we going to do it? You know, and the stuff that aggravates the little guy is the stuff that's going to get this, you know, 90% out. The stuff that, you know, impacts the little guy as far as we're going to control the garbage that will come in around you, that's the one that gets you the yes. You know, if I'm seeing this where if I wanna put a shed in my backyard, I've gotta go file a permit, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, nah, ain't gonna happen, it's gone. You get rid of the minutia that affects me like that, yes, you know, I'll go along with you 100% on the big stuff. You get rid of the minutia, I'll be with you. You keep the minutia in there, nope, ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, can I respond to that? Sure. Yeah, I think you make a good point. In fact, last time we were here, a number of the folks who attended complained about some of the minutia in the draft at that time. And in fact, the gentleman in the front row here had probably 15 complaints. And I personally wrote out a whole bunch of the stuff you complained about. So you can thank me later. You know, we made a big attempt in response to, we made a big attempt in response to the comments that we got last time to cut out a lot of the minutia that were determined not to be necessary. And after I made a cut on it, I know the folks here at the table made another cut. So there has been a great effort to do that. And if you have other complaints about minutia, you're free to submit those complaints.
There's a lot of talk about grandfathering. So
Oh, yeah.
a lot of the complaints, what we gotta do about the grandfathering? I know there was mention about yards, and some of that stuff is already established.
Yeah, everything's already established that you brought up. You said you like a nice yard, everybody around you. But everything's grandfathered. They're already established. So how are you gonna fix
So
the
your
problem
problems
that you're
aren't
coming
gonna
to
be
zoning with?
Could I ask Ellie to respond to that?
Yeah, sure.
About grandfathering or?
With the non-conforming use, with that type of, so anything that's a non-conforming use that was in existence at the time that the resolution goes into effect, it was allowed to continue as long as, usually I believe in this, resolution, it indicates as long as you're not expanding it, you don't discontinue it, then you can continue with, the activity that you're conducting, even though it's not abiding by the resolution, because it was being used in that fashion prior to the zoning resolution going into effect.
So the four properties that Steve mentioned that he drives by every day will remain the same no matter what?
And I don't know what those are, yes.
Well, that's what, you know,
Yeah,
you brought
yeah.
up four properties you drive by when you drive.
So really, the zoning's not gonna
The
fix it.
zoning's not gonna fix anything that you're thinking you have problems with, except
No.
a few little things.
Yes,
Yeah,
for future, yes.
What's there is there, you know, and it's,
That's why I think this is all again about it the right way, in my opinion.
But there may be other avenues to address if there's some sort of nuisance, something that's violating the health code, if there's noxious weeds, things of that nature, then you can address, situations like that, through some sort of filing with the courts, or through some sort of documentation by the township trustee.
Filing with the court is more money, again, out of our pocket. Well, yes. Yes.
Not always, not always. It depends on which, if you're coming through, it depends on what avenues, yes.
So I got a question back to you about wind farms.
Sure.
You represent it, in here, under 703.06 says wind turbines, small wind farms less than 5 megawatt and used solely for agriculture are exempt from this resolution. If you Google a 5 megawatt wind turbine, it's a fairly decent sized wind turbine. So you're basically saying, we're gonna stop everybody else from putting it in, but anybody that has a farm that wanna put them in, they can put more the merrier, as long as it's used for agriculture. Correct?
It has to be used on the premises.
For agriculture, so
For
then
themselves.
you're trying to stop all these wind turbines as well But then we can have all these wind turbines everywhere and everybody's worried about the aesthetic appeal of what this township looks like. And they don't want wind turbines up. So then every farmer can go put in 5, 10, 15 to support all their hog barns, and we can't do nothing with that.
You don't need 5, 10.
I'm just saying, proving the point that you're putting a wind turbine up, and y'all are sitting up here saying, well, we're trying to preserve the township.
No, you're not proving any point, because in order for a farmer to put up a windmill, that farmer has to use all the power on its own premises, and he
But
can't
it's
use.
aesthetic appeal. You see that wind turbine out there that stands up higher than his barns, that's aesthetic appeal. That's what you guys are up here sitting there saying.
Yeah, but
We're
it's
trying to
one,
preserve the community, the way the ground looks and everything else.
it's one turbine instead of 87.
Yeah,
Would
but
you rather have 87?
I've worked out west and them farmers make buku money off that. Money talks all day long.
Yeah, well. the
There's
ones- the
300
ones
of them out
The
west.
ones out west are situated next to people's houses for the most part.
No, but them farmers made a hell of a lot of money. For what? Because everybody sat up here and said, oh, we won't sell out to big companies? Everybody can dream that dream all day long. Money talks and they're gonna support themselves. So solar farms, wind farms, it don't really matter. They're building a 600-acre one up in Bellevue. That farmer didn't bat an eye about selling that.
Well, you might have an isolated turbine here and there. You can't really stop that.
What about Finley over there? They're supplying it, and they're safe, ball of metal and whirlpool on the side of them, up at the top. You know, you got that in here too. And they're supplying back to their factories.
Well, you
They're
know,
by residents' houses.
you raise a good illustration.
Nobody's complaining about
Would
it.
you let me talk? Let me talk.
Go
I'd
ahead.
like to answer your question.
Yep.
Okay. All right. The whirlpool situation.
Hey, microphone, up close.
Oh.
Got it.
About this.
There we go.
All right.
You guys are bad at that.
I know the whirlpool situation because I represent some people there who unfortunately find themselves in a situation where they don't have zoning yet to prevent the situation they now have with Whirlpool, where there are several mega-sized wind turbines there already, and there are 4 more that are planned as close as 500 feet away from people's houses because they don't have zoning. And they are now scurrying to get zoning to address that. And it may be too late for them. In fact, I filed a lawsuit against the company that is planning to put in those 4 turbines to see if we can stop them another way. Because it is irresponsible to put a large wind turbine 500 feet away from somebody's house. It will almost hit your house when it falls over, and they do fall over. So that is an extremely good illustration of why you need zoning, because they don't have it, and they are really regretting it.
What about our big time government that's pushing all this solar and wind? You know, they're pushing it.
Sure.
They say it's coming.
Yeah,
Why are you gonna stop it? We're just a little township.
Yeah. Well, there have been some townships that have,
Some.
because they put in, well, the ones that, here's how it works. If it's a solar facility that is 50 megawatts or larger, you can't stop it unless you participate in the power siting board proceeding in an attempt to stop it. And in some of those cases, we have stopped them. However, what the solar companies have discovered they can do is to design solar facilities at 49 megawatts and put them in under the state control in townships that don't have zoning. Because state law allows a township to zone against large solar facilities if those solar facilities are less than 50 megawatts. And so what we're seeing happening in a lot of these townships is these companies are coming in and rapid fire hitting the township with 49 megawatt projects designed to go in with no regulation because they've chosen townships without zoning regulations. That's where they're going. They're going where they know they can just do anything they want. And it doesn't matter how much it hurts the locals. And that's what you gotta try to avoid, because it's happening all around the country, and all around the state. And in cases where the townships have caught on to this and are acting now, they can stop these projects under 50 megawatts, and they are in other townships.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was curious, I understand this is a very noble purpose, but say in the future when you've accomplished the main objectives, what oversight would the county have on this board? Would it be easy, like if another group of people got in with an agenda that we didn't like, what would be the way that we would have to easily recall or remove people from this board, if there is an issue?
Okay. Well, the board, as you stated, is set up in the zoning code. It's called the Board of Zoning Appeals. And it's a type of board set up by Ohio law to function. And if I recall, it's appointed by the trustees. Yeah, it's appointed by the trustees. So it's the trustees that control the membership, and of course, you control who the trustees are. That's how you have control. You don't like how the BZA is acting and is causing a big problem, you let your trustees know. And if your trustees don't obey, then you need a ballot box.
Yes.
Is this gonna do anything to help, like, homeowners to get their neighbors to clean up their property? Or that, I mean. That would be important. And that'd probably be that kind of, wouldn't it?
They're existing, it's grandfathered.
Well, there's nothing there.
Well, it can be grandfathered, but if it's a nuisance, it could be taken care of. You know, through a nuisance lawsuit by the prosecutor's office, if it's a nuisance.
But you have to spend more of the township money and lots of time and other zoning. I've talked to some other trustees and other townships, and it costs more money and a lot of stuff you just can let go.
Well, the prosecutor's office, the prosecutors are salaried. Yeah, do you want to handle that?
I can add too. So we can either do a nuisance complaint through the health department, and we are salaried, so we file the complaint and go through the process. And hopefully come up with a plan where the owner either has to rectify the situation, and if they don't, then it can fall back on the township to clean up the property. But we do have the ability, if the township has to expend the funds to clean up the property, then we can assess those costs to the homeowner's taxes and then go through a process like a foreclosure sale to recoup those taxes. There's a statutory proceeding as well, separate from a nuisance complaint, where the township trustees can follow the revised code section, revised code again, and just do that informally without a court proceeding, where they can go through mailing letters to a homeowner. If the homeowner does not correct the nuisance, then it goes through the same process, where the township trustees can then go ahead and clean up the property themselves. And then if the bill's not paid, place it on the taxes of the homeowner.
Does the homeowner and all the trustees have to go to all the court proceedings?
Usually if I have a nuisance complaint, I usually will have, because if I have to put testimony on, I will have to have a township trustee available.
Sounds to me like they're gonna be in the court for a whole.
It's not a horrible amount of time, no.
As many as complaints as coming from up here to hear about.
Can that already be done with the health, is the health department already in place to do that? Would that
For
be-
nuisances, yes, for nuisances.
So we
can
need
do
to add
it.
more laws on top of that?
It's just another avenue to confirm your property is maintained and,
But the other avenue.
It sets some standards.
yeah, set standards, yes.
State standards? Is that coming
Set-
from the state?
No,
No.
it sets them in the code, in the zoning code.
So are they, can people are saying a nuisance property. Can the county do something about that right now? If there's a nuisance property that people are saying.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
So we don't need what these guys are trying to do with the little things, when it already should be taken care of. It should be
Well,
taken care
nuisance-
of up here, not down here.
Yeah, nuisance is more like, not mowing your grass,
That was brought up.
things of that nature,
That
but,
was brought up.
Falls on the
Steve brought
people
that
that
up.
have the issue with
Property.
it.
okay, yeah,
So it's a county problem,
that's,
not a township problem.
You guys keep worrying about the process of having to go through that. If you have the code and that in place, there is no process to have to go through
There's
further.
a lot, look up at Falls Story, there's zoning up there, and there's trash houses all over the place.
But it
Time and
can't
money.
going to court or anything.
Time and money.
The zoning code goes way beyond just nuisance.
It boils down to costing people money, period. That's what it boils down to being. You're taking away their right to do whatever they want on their own property that they work hard to pay for. You're taking it away and making them pay even more money that they already pay enough as it is, just to live their life and enjoy their property and whatever they want to do on their hard-earned property.
How many different people got a complaint about one place that's a mess or a nuisance? 1, 2, 15, 20?
Is there a complaint process? That's a
Yeah.
valid question. Is there a process for complaints, or is it just whoever calls, or?
Does one person complain and you have to go take care of it, or is it 20 people that have complained before you take care of a nuisance property?
well, usually, we receive information from a township if there's an issue, and then we will proceed accordingly.
Is there a complaint process with this, what we're trying to put in place? Is there an actual
Oh, is there a
transparent?
complaint?
Yeah, is
Because
there an
you're
actual
asking
transparent process?
about a complaint or a permit. No, the process is just like I indicated outlined in
It's
Ohio
permit
Revised
based.
Code section. It's statutory procedure, yes.
So we've always had it that way for the cleanup. If the township has to clean a place up, so it's always been that way.
That's one avenue of, there's many avenues that you can take, and that's one avenue. But that's different from zoning. Zoning is a separate procedure that takes care of many issues.
But with zoning, are they gonna be able to continue to trash their property, or?
Well, zoning should have regulations as well, just to, the standards that you're supposed to keep your property. There's always, you're not supposed to have a nuisance property, so if that occurs, then a complaint can be brought to the trustees, to the health department, wherever it may be, and then it can be addressed.
Is it somebody just calling in, or is it somebody driving around and saying, I don't like that one?
Usually the health department will get some sort of notification, and they can go, look into the issue. Township trustees may receive a complaint,
there's
they
no
can go look into
transparency
the
there?
issue.
Of where the road's at? There's no transparency in the process of?
Well, if there is any.
What the gentleman over here said, that if, right now, if we got a good board, if we get
Yeah.
somebody in there who says, I don't like X, Y, and Z, this person, this person, this person,
Yes,
where's the process to make it transparent, as in a criminal process, to say, okay, is this even a valid complaint, or is it just somebody, we just put government in charge of, okay, I get to decide? And somebody brought up Fostoria, picking and choosing. It's a damn thing. It's a real thing. I promise you. They will sit there, you can look at it, look online, look up Fostoria zoning. And the zoning people are nice people. It's not a problem there, but the higher up you go, the uglier it gets. There are issues that can arise from this if you create a power vacuum without a transparent process. Transparency is the most important thing, and it's the one thing, for some reason, the United States government, top to bottom, sucks at. So I don't understand if there's not an actual complaint process. If it's just, oh, I got a phone call. Or, in Fostoria at times, you'll see people online that sit there and they complain. Oh, this is a problem, this is a problem, this is a problem. Who followed up on it? How do we follow the complaint process? There is none. If there's not a transparent process, then there's no transparency, then it's open and ripe for government overreach.
I think you've raised an issue that comes up a lot in whatever environmental agency you're dealing with. You know, I used to represent the Ohio EPA, and we would have folks who would complain against their least favorite neighbor all the time. And it seems like the inspector was always going out there to inspect things and figure out whether the complaints were valid. But you know, you can't prohibit somebody from contacting their government for relief if they think they have a problem. Just because there are some people that abuse it. You can't restrict people from complaining. But it's up to the inspector to figure out whether the complaints are valid and decide what kind of credence to give to them. So, you know, this is not really the place to establish a complaint procedure. There's really no particular need for it. I think we're kind of digressing here because dealing with nuisances is not the main portion of this zoning code. There's a lot more here, such as saving your quality of life from solar facilities that's involved. So I would encourage you not to get too bogged down from the with the complaint process.
Yeah, back in it. Yeah, question?
Isn't everything that you're talking about considered a fucking nuisance? Just saying. Harder on French, but just asking.
Next question?
No, you're going from one thing saying this is a nuisance, to this is a nuisance, to this is a nuisance, or this is a problem, this is a problem. It's still a nuisance in the end or a problem. Am I wrong?
Okay.
I'm asking.
What's the question?
It's still a problem, right? So you're saying a nuisance or this is just a loophole that you guys don't have?
I'm just back around to the same thing with getting the minutia out of this and getting back to just the core that you initially want to accomplish. You know, these little things like complaint processes, what's this, what's that, a lot of that's covered under state code. I'm pretty sure you've dealt with some of that, you know, cars on abandoned property or abandoned cars. You know, you've dealt with that. Most of this stuff is already covered under some kind of state code. Get it out of the zoning, use the zoning for what you want to initially accomplish, and then you can come back in later if you need to and start putting it back on the ballot. You want to amend the code to read this or don't. You know, and it could be a progressive, usually have 2 elections a year. You know, one in the spring and one in the fall. And I mean, if stuff starts coming up that you want to add back into it, add it back into it, you know, put it on the ballot, let the people add it back into it, you know, but at the beginning, take this back to the core, to exactly what you want to accomplish. You keep the solar farms out, designate what this land's going to be used for, what it can't be used for, you know, maybe include a little appeal process if somebody wants to do something a little off, you know, the chart there, but come back to the core, very beginning, dump the minutia out from underneath it, get it on the books, and then you can start building it step by step from there.
Yes.
I'll add to that, with the zoning, there are certain things that they have to add in. It's just like a minimum requirement that if you want zoning, there's certain things that do have to be in there. And that came out of the last couple of meetings that I've been at. But the board also told us that it was the least restrictive at the very, with this one use like this. And when compared to Hopewell townships, that was not true. So there were certain things, and most of them got worked out, the ones that I found, different people that were at the last meeting. But I would encourage everybody to read the resolution, see what it's going to affect you as a homeowner, a landowner, a Loudon Township resident, and then make your decision. Because there's a lot of things in there that do have to be in there, but it's also a lot bigger than Hopewell Township, so there's a lot of extra.
Yeah.
Earlier we were talking about variances and conditional uses, and I'm a little confused about Article 7 and 1003. is there a difference between a conditional zoning certificate and a conditional use permit? There's two different processes.
It's required, mobile, and shopping cart. Tons of stairs.
Yeah, so Article 7, page 35 deals with conditional zoning certificates. And then 1,000 feet is a conditional use permit, page 54. I just want to know if there's a difference or they're supposed to be the same thing. It's a little confusing.
Okay, so the first one was on page what again?
35.
35.
Article 7. Yeah, just generally Article 7.
Okay, I think my copy is paged different.
I think I printed the one that was dated May 6th from the website.
Okay. Anything else?
I got a question. You guys said you formed it back in May of '23, right? So what happened the whole course of the year up until April for the first public meeting? Now all of a sudden, we're gonna jam 2 meetings down our throats and try to hurry up and get this on the ballot. Where was the course of the whole year prior to? What went on? Because none of the changes happened until people came to the public meeting and started voicing their opinion.
There was a lot of changes. We had over 20 versions of this along the way. Because we had different people come in.
That wasn't publicized, was it?
Sure, every one of those meetings was
Was
publicized.
it?
Every meeting was publicized.
You're gonna have to do a better way of doing that.
Yeah.
I hear you. I hear you. Yes.
I would like to point this to the lawyer. If this gets approved, will this stop the expansion for the dog?
Were you the person that asked this last time?
No.
I got exactly the same question last time.
Same answer?
Yeah, when we think of the same answer, I wish I would have recorded that, because I thought it was pretty good. Well, the objective of zoning with regard to the landfill is to limit the landfill to its currently permitted area. That's the objective. I can tell you that during every one of these meetings recently, a wind waste lawyer has stood up and threatened to sue us for that. And I'm waiting for that to happen yet tonight. You're going to disappoint me if you don't. So, you know, litigation's never a certain thing. It's not. And we think we are on solid ground with regard to the zoning provisions that we've written for the landfill. But I don't have a crystal ball, and I never try to predict the outcome of litigation because the Supreme Court tells me I'll lose my license if I do. So that's kind of a non-answer answer to your question, but it's the best that I can do. But I can tell you that we thoroughly researched what we put in here to make sure that it was as most defensible as it possibly could, and we believe it's defensible.
Anything else? Yeah.
I got a question. When it comes to we might not be able to stop the landfill from doing an expansion wherever else, but can we put it on the ballot right now? Everybody votes yes or no, they want the dump to expand or get bigger. Can we go one step ahead of what they're wanting to do?
Is your question whether we can put something on the ballot that would say the landfill has to stop expanding? Is that what you're asking?
Expand or buy more land and put more.
Yeah, you'd have to go through, zoning is the mechanism that the people speak about that. That is the legal mechanism that the Ohio General Assembly has given to township trustees to regulate land use. And that's really the only way you can address the sprawling landfill issue.
Yeah.
talking about landfill expansion, this and that, said before he used to represent the EPA. EPA is one of the most just an ugly organization, is how I'll describe them. So they will likely vote, and I'm still confused why they haven't voted. They've had their public meetings, there might be litigation going against them right now. But if the EPA votes, they give them the permission to expand before this, then they're grandfathered. Am I incorrect in that?
Yeah, you are really. The EPA process works separately from the zoning process. We can't stop what EPA does except by appealing what they try to do. You know, so for example, the county commissioners and or the board of township trustees and or the board of health could file an appeal of the landfill expansion permit if they decide to do that. So that's one process.
If they filed that appeal, if the EPA votes for the expansion, they're going to, I'll bet everything on it. The EPA votes for the expansion of the landfill. Then we vote on zoning. We vote zoning in. They vote to appeal it. Do they count that? Then is it still null and void? Is it still grandfathered?
Yeah. Well, grandfathering is a separate question from how EPA permitting.
Not the expansion. Can they still expand if the appeal is filed by the Board of Health?
It's going to depend on how far along the landfill is in its expansion by the time the voters vote for the zoning code.
They're going far already. I mean, the hills just get bigger and bigger and bigger, because I look at them every daggone day.
Yeah, you should be all in favor of
smell
this
them
thing.
every day.
Yeah.
And I want to tell you something else. Last night, yesterday, all day, the train tracks really ran good. They must have dumped a whole bunch while everybody's asleep, right? Back here sleeping.
Okay. Well, you know exactly what we're talking about then.
Yeah.
Any other questions anybody has?
I want to say something quick,
Sure.
I want to thank all you guys who are trying to help us eliminate the stink and the trash, the rats, the uncomfortable situations we have. All of you are trying to do what you can to fight it. And we have to play the game. That's the way it's played. That's how the game began, and we all know that. So I think you guys have a lot of things that you're upset about, and I totally understand. You guys are smart people. But we gotta play the game. I hate that frickin' stink. I hate it as much as you do, maybe more. But we gotta hang in there. We're not gonna click our fingers and, send the boys back to New York with their junk. They're gonna be living about 20 miles from here, driving over here and dumping their shit on us. And this is one way to stop it. So let's think about the zoning. Let's stay focused and not lose sight of who we're fighting. It's a game, yes. Go ahead.
Our trustees didn't stand up and stop them when they started it. Our township, our county didn't stop it. They let it keep on going, and then it got, now you can't stop it.
We can't change what happens, sir.
We can't, but we could try.
We're trying. They're trying. These people behind me are trying. I don't know this guy from Adam, but I can tell a phony a mile away.
To kind of piggyback off that, here's my theory. My understanding is that the landfill expansion will not take effect until after this resolution will be voted on. So that's why you're seeing such a big push, all these meetings coming up that are popping up out of nowhere is to try and get ahead of this, much to what that gentleman up there just said. can't get too caught up in the weeds of a simple fee here, a simple fee there. Like you said, you have to play the game. Are you gonna be more upset about sitting back in your chair, refusing to vote or voting no, and then watch the landfill double in size, triple in size? If you're all right with that outcome, you have no right to complain when that happens, because that will happen if there's no zoning.
Thank you.
How many younger generation in here though bought land in Loudon Township? Or bought a house in Loudon Township? Can you find a house in Loudon Township for sale?
I'll
You
take
can't.
mine.
Well, I'm just saying, you know, people are beating down the door to go to a good school district. It's not zoned.
Yeah.
The landfill's there. They knew what they were getting into when they bought it.
Did they though? I mean,
Yeah, if you look down the road, you saw the landfill there, you know the landfill's there. But this is what I'm getting at is,
That's cool.
about the whole concept is we all bought land because it was unzoned. It was our choice. The landfill ain't going away, we're not gonna stop it. Why deplete us all for money purposes of that reason? And then the other thing is this meeting, public meeting for Loudon Township people to voice their opinion? Or is it everybody that comes into their county that could come over here to help push for the landfill to get shut down?
It's a public meeting, so
I
we didn't ask
understand
where
that.
people live.
But I'm just saying, you know.
Actually, it
that-
is.
Yes, it is, I know.
We didn't keep people out. We didn't
But
keep people out.
that's what I'm getting at is this is Loudon Township's meeting. Not everybody else promoting, what are you gonna do about the landfill that shuts it down?
It's Loudon Township's meeting, that's right. Okay.
I understand that. No, I don't.
Any final questions?
I'll leave you alone, do that.
Okay.
We got another meeting, though, right?
Pardon me?
We got another meeting coming up?
Well,
June, July?
first part of July, let me tell you, our committee is quarter after, well, that's at 7, but it's quarter after 8. Our committee is gonna meet in 10 minutes to decide on voting to approve the zoning code and maps. We're gonna meet, we're gonna give a 10-minute break, and we're gonna reconvene our committee to decide and vote yes or no to approve the zoning code and maps.
So that's changes, if we need changes on this yet, we still need to do that? If it's not.
There's no more time for map changes right now. That's what the last 30 days or 20 days. Those have been all the changes.
Will there be more before this goes into effect? More changes?
No. Not if it's
Some of
approved.
these are still incorrect.
Well, on the map you're talking about? Have you brought it to our attention before
I
tonight?
brought it to Ashley's attention, yes.
just on the way in.
On the way in tonight?
No, on phone conversation we
Well,
had.
we changed those other ones, but this
Not-
one was not.
That was one I still brought up. I said I had agriculture purpose for that. The farmers use it. I have fruit trees. I have.
You didn't say, I
tilapia.
didn't recall you saying anything, you said it
I
just
have-
had the house.
But I have
on
all
it.
that there.
I
Before
didn't
the,
know you
before
had
the
fruit
meeting,
trees
I
on
said
there.
before the meeting, so before the meeting started, I officially got that in.
I mean, tonight you did?
Yes,
sir.
on the way in.
Well, yeah, the map wouldn't reflect that.
Well, you just said you're going in to vote, and I'm asking will the changes be made.
That might be one of your conditions.
Don't laugh about it, let's do something.
You guys
That's
supposed
what
to-
you said before the meeting, I did before the meeting. Let's get it.
We could still make a change in the map.
And I think there's a lot of other people who probably have the same thing and don't realize it. When I brought it up, I had 3 properties. You just said before the meeting, I did before the meeting.
Well, but it was public. Those, we made changes to the map since the last meeting, but they were done last week or a couple weeks before that. And we were able to put them on there and put it out there and publicize it for people to look at it.
That's what I'm saying, you still have more of that you need to do. I'm sure there's a lot more,
Well,
people that are affected.
people have had, now they've had, the meeting April 22nd, they had 30 days before that, and since then they've had another 30 days. So I don't think there's time to make any more changes.
There should be. Well, I brought it up the last meeting, I said I had 3 properties.
What I would suggest you do, well, I'm not.
Give it $50.
If the attorneys are saying we can't make the change, we can't.
What is it you want to do? You want to change the residential to the agricultural?
Yes, because according to the agriculture statutes, I have fruit trees, I have asparagus patch, I have a 1/4 acre pond I put tilapia in, and I have staging area for my farm. They're all on my property.
So why would a residential classification prevent you from doing it?
I want it to be agriculture. My other 2 properties are agriculture. I want the third one to be,
But you can still use it for the same thing.
I want it to be zoned agriculture.
Tax purposes.
No, it's not gonna do any different, it's not gonna make any difference to you.
Even
So
though
when
it
you
does,
go out-
because there's lots of reasons to apply to
You
agriculture.
could use your land, you could use.
Have different stipulations for agriculture versus residential. There's different stipulations in these rules. I brought it up to the committee before the meeting, now you brought it up the last meeting.
I know from personal experience, I had them change mine, and I called the county auditor and said, how is mine on your map? Is it agricultural, residential? And they said agricultural. And I said, well, I just want to make sure how this is going to work, because there was 6 properties all the way around mine that were all as a residential. And every one of them that I had them look up were agricultural on their map. Why is it different from one to the other?
Sometimes the auditor's records are not correct. The zoning map is likely to be more correct than the auditors are not always percent accurate. And if the zoning map is being updated right now, then that's going to take precedence based off of the resolution.
So, but how can their map not be right? So that has to do with the taxes. How is that, you're gonna notice why you're being taxed.
Where did the information for the zoning map come from then? I thought it was the auditor's office.
Did you get it from the auditors?
Yeah.
Okay, then it was the auditors.
So how is there a discrepancy from 6 different properties that went from one to the other? So
When did they change your classification?
the last one, because I complained about it. But
On the zoning?
yes, the auditor's office always has it, or always had it agriculture. On their map, it was not. So I was just curious how it was, if they took it from there, how did it get changed in the switch?
Yeah, and then I wouldn't know that. If they took it from the auditor's office's maps, the plat maps.
We use the auditor's map as a starting point,
Okay,
and then we modify it.
okay,
So they changed
Try to
it.
reflect what it really was, should be,
okay.
make them consistent.
So how do you change it?
You get a lawyer. I got more money. Exactly what I had to do with this property right here that Randy's talking about. When we split it up, it was in 6 parcels. There was one parcel that Adam's house is on, in the bare ground I have, the auditor's office had it backwards. Adam should be paying me rent for the house. And it's been since 2006. We never caught this till just now, and today I took the paperwork back over to the lawyer's office to get it straightened back up, but make sure you check your deeds, because I'll tell you what, the auditor's office can screw things up big time.
Yeah, I mean, since this is, not as publicized as it could have been, couldn't there be a 3 to 6 month window with no fees for discrepancies that people want to change, or would it, come to you if this isn't right, that isn't right, that you could just...
No fault of the person that didn't have anything to do with the map, I agree with that.
Well, you're talking about the fees?
I'm talking about, like, all right, he wants to change something. Couldn't there be, after the maps are published or whatever, so everybody knows what their stuff is, a window where you wouldn't charge any fees, you would just be able to bring in your paperwork or whatever to try to change get right what it's supposed to
We
be?
could look into that. I don't know the answer to that.
It's just an
Can we make a
idea.
note of that, please? Make a note of that, John.
So I got a question about that map. He was talking about houses and stuff. Down 587, in Township Road 112, you guys got all the houses listed as suburban residential,
Right.
which says they have to have sewer.
No, they do not.
They do not. It says or.
Or.
Or, what city of
Or
Loudon?
areas served by the.
Or. They don't have
Group
to.
of houses.
Why doesn't our 4 streets have water? City water.
So this is being put, you're pushing this through for the November ballot, and there's still some more discrepancies. Why don't you push it to the spring ballot and make the correct changes?
Well,
We've already pushed it back one.
You're still not 100%.
I think it will never be 100%. We could do this for 2 or 3 years, and still there'd be difference of opinion on parts of the code. So we could push it out 2 or 3 years, we would still have disagreements on parts of it. We were shooting for having on this spring ballot originally, but we just couldn't meet that. So we pushed it to November. Yeah.
So for me to change this, it's gonna cost me money.
I don't know the answer to that right off the bat.
Because it's incorrectly stated.
That's, I'll tell you what,
You can't push it back because then we lose our narrow window to actually implement the main root of what we're trying to implement. Is why that gentleman just went back there to get a special interview.
when we get done here, let us get your information, and I can get back to you with that answer. I don't know the answer right off the bat. But we're gonna meet, now it's 8:25. When we adjourn here, we're gonna wait 10 minutes, and we're gonna convene and vote on it as it is currently published. And if it passes, it'll go to the regional planning meeting next Wednesday. If they approve it, it goes to the trustees, and they got the final say.
Is that regional planning meeting open to the public?
Yes.
Yes.
Next Wednesday, 5 o'clock, at the regional planning office, which is in the same building with the Board of Elections in Tiffin.
The trustees could vote it down potentially?
Sure can. They got the final say.
Who votes it to the next level tonight in the meeting? Is it the trustees and the board?
Pardon me?
Is it the board and trustees that vote it to the next level on whether we take it to the next level for approval?
No, if we approve it tonight, it will go to the regional planning meeting next Wednesday.
Yeah, but the people that are casting the votes are at the table?
Yeah, it's us. Us 5. Right. Yeah. Final questions?
I'll just end this. I know I sound like a big proponent for the zoning, but I did come to a lot of other prior meetings, and I had about a list of 10 different items that I thought were absolutely ludicrous, completely taken out. So there has been a lot of work and a lot of effort taken into this to try and reduce some of the, as this gentleman said, the minutia of it. But there's still some that can't remove, but you have to play the game.
I
Did-
feel like
did
a lot of
play
people
the
aren't
game.
here that don't even know about it.
As much of a double-edged sword as zoning in any community is, it's better to have something in place and be able to amend it as you go along and figure out the kinks that are in the system than not have it at all.
To leave yourselves completely open to any business
Right.
and whatever their will is, not what our will is. That's the scary thing.
Okay. Thank you for coming. We hear you. We live here too.